Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing excellent. Today we're back with the FC. Last time you were with us, we took out the engine, transmission, and subframe. Drive shaft still sitting in there, but it is not connected. But today, what I want to work on is, well, my original plan was to get the subframe back in. Or switch the subframe rather to the S4, because I want to get the car back on these casters that the subframe's currently on, so that I can move it around the garage. However, I remembered something very important. I need to get the fuel lines done up above the subframe before I put it back in. Otherwise, it's almost impossible and just a huge waste of time. So we're going to go ahead and crack into the fuel hanger setup and get the AN lines ran instead of the stock rubber hoses. Alright, so this is the first piece of the puzzle. This is the stock fuel hanger from the FC, and it's got some interesting features I never saw from S5, which is this feed comes down into this big fitting to go onto the fuel pump, and there's a really nice bulkhead connector here for the wiring, which is pretty cool. But our goal is to run 10 gauge wiring all the way down in here to the Walbro 450 pump, which we're going to be using. And I'd like to keep the fuel level sender, obviously, and this is the low fuel warning light, which goes into this unit here. And the kit that I bought has this humongous weld-in fitting for the new bulkhead fitting for the wiring. So that's going to be a challenge to figure out where I can position it where I don't have to cut out or remove any of these other features. And I'm sorry about the chickens. They're being really noisy. They're laying eggs, and their coop is right there behind the 13B in a wheelbarrow. After careful consideration, that bulkhead kit that I got is really cool, and we'll probably use it in a future application, but I cannot use it for this. I would destroy too much of the hanger and not be able to retain the functionality of a street car. So what we're going to use is the slick stock wiring. Fortunately, I already took this apart, but I can get this back together, no problem. And yeah, we're just going to go with that. If I look at the stock wiring, it actually has a really nice clip to retain it. It has about a 16 gauge, 14 gauge wire for power and a double grounded wire. I think that's going to work just fine. We will, of course, adapt. This is the stock wiring harness that comes from the stock relay and sending unit for the fuel sensor into the top of the bulkhead connector. We're going to modify up to this point to be 10 gauge off of a straight relay so that we can be delivering the voltage from the alternator to the fuel pump. But right now I'm just going to set up this hanger to take our Walbro 450 and our AN fittings on this end. Okay, so I went through about 100 cutoff wheels getting these cut off, and I just wanted to get it as flat and straight as possible because usually I use a pipe cutter on these, and the fittings we have need it to be nice and flat. So now I'll grab some files here and I'll clean off all the burrs and make everything nice and flat. And then I'm going to blow out the lines to make sure that nothing gets in the fuel system that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so now we're going to get our little adapters on here, and these are going to change these to AN fittings. They're compression ones. I've already used these before, so come with this little ferrule. First we put this on. Ooh, these are going to be a nice tight fit. Okay, might have to work these on a little bit. It appears I'm going to need to sand them down, and I think mostly what it is it's slightly larger because these are metric and they only make these in standard sizes, so you have to do the best with what you can. So these are slightly smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and just give these a nice sand down first. Whew, okay, so took my 1000 grit and just worked it and worked it and worked it, and I was able to get these two pieces on. So now that they're in there, I got the ferrule in there. if you can see. And then you got to get these to start threading in. Good, so it looks like that is going to work and work well. So I'll secure this back one in place with my adjustable wrench here, and take my other wrench on this one, tighten that down. Okay, that should be good. So we're going to test this system later on tonight once we get all the wiring and pump done. So we'll see if anything leaks. Alright, so next what I want to do is get the pump set in here. I got the bulkhead connector back in. I had kind of trimmed down the sides to allow it to slide out, but I didn't really do any structural change here, so I just put it back in, and I actually punched in another section there, if you're wondering about that. Anyway, so we're going to use that connector. We got our AN fittings on here. Now we need to use our pump. So I just cut this open off camera, but it's brand new, authentic Walbro 450. So it is going to sit into here something like so, or like so, probably something like that. So we need to get this set up for that. So I've got some wiring here automatically attached, and then I have a installation kit, and I have a fuel sock, some hose clamps, some instructions, alternate wiring options. So you can just use this stock one, which we will for this one, or you can run in different gauge wires into a weather pack connector style fitting, which is what we would have done if we were running dash 10 all the way into the tank. But because we're limited with what a FC fuel hanger can handle, we're not going to do that. So I can set this aside and use these for something else. Cool. Now, this piece right here may look strange to you, but this is going to be the feed line. So this is going to go on here and then into our pump. We're going to have to get the sizing right on that. And you may think it looks strange because it doesn't look like fuel hose, but that's because this is E85 compatible. If you see you get a kit that comes with a rubber fuel hose, that's not going to do it for you. Unfortunately, you need a PTFE line similar to this. So let me work on getting this set up. Also, briefly forgot to mention that we're not using that fuel sock. I'm actually using this really cool stainless steel sock piece, which is much smaller as well. This makes it easier to make all this fit, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna get this hooked up. Okay, that was a lot of tedious work, but I finally got it. So got our fuel pump in here, got our nice little stainless steel mesh. We've got the fuel level indicator attached again. We have the wiring connected, so it's back in the stock connector. Comes down here holding the clamp in place with the hose clamp to hold the whole assembly in place. PTFE fuel lines installed nice and snug all the way up to the top, and we got our dash 6 adapters on top. So now I need to repeat the process like I did for these dash 6 adapters underneath the car. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those two, shimmy under there with a headlamp, and get that done. Alright, so now underneath the car on these ones where I can use it, I just use the pipe cutter. It makes it a lot easier. At least I hope so. Oh man, this will be challenging, but it gives me a much cleaner cut to work with. So I'm going to get these cut off if I can manage. Rep. Fill hanger is back in. Oh, I need to put the screws in, but it's in there. The bottom lines have been converted to dash 6 AN, and now comes the next piece of the puzzle. Now you see, when I did the fuel system before, there were two things that happened. One, I got confused because previously if you ordered fuel line on Amazon, and you typed in I want E85 compliant or compatible fuel line, there was CPE, which is rubber, synthetic something, composite, blah, 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 rubber, which is kind of normal fuel line, and it said E85 compatible. Now, if I go back in my purchase history and click on buy again for those, it says not E85 compatible in all big bold letters. Now, some people have had luck running CPE line for their E85, but I have to switch to PTFE. And I've just seen recently too many people, some of the other people I follow on YouTube, have their little CPE rubber line from just the fuel pump feed, like warp and spray out all this stuff, and then they lose the fuel pressure and they can't figure out why. Pull everything out, find that. And also just recently had someone else on YouTube, they destroyed all 8 of their injectors on their LS and had to replace all those, and they were sponsored by Deechworks, so they're fine, but we are not. And we have expensive injector dynamics, you know, ID 1700X injectors, and even though I have a nice fuel filter, everything past the fuel filter could still degrade. And I even like mentally knew that this was a problem, and I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll make them out of the normal AN line because it's easy to work with, and then I'll just put a note to service them every time I do like an oil change or something, which is crazy because the amount of work that goes into making them, cutting the lines, doing this, plus buying them. So I broke down and probably for the best got PTFE line. So that's what I was just unboxing here as I was talking. So I bought some extra. I already have some that I had abandoned working with just because I was worried I wasn't going to be able to make it work, but I'm going to go ahead and get this, make a couple lines to run, try this out because I haven't used it before. I did get something correct to cut it with, which should help a lot, which are these cutters here. Now you can buy a bunch of these from fuel line companies, and what I realized is they're just cable cutters. So I went and got this at Harbor Freight, my favorite, and I just sharpened them using my Dremel and stuff so that they're sharper, so they should cut through it and everything. So I'm gonna give it a shot. All right, I just got the first line made. I think it went really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed this down through here and get it hooked up, and then take a measurement and then get the second half done, and that'll be the real test, because this first end I didn't have to cut. It's just how it came from the factory. So all right, making progress. It's been a long and tedious day, but finally making progress. Okay, let's see how well these sharpened cutters do. Come here. So, get it right where I want it. There we go. Okay, that seems pretty good. So it really helped me when I watched one of the videos to figure out how to do this, was somebody explained to me what's going on. Because when you do an AN fitting, it's kind of like a double compression. You're forcing an inner thing around and compressing the rubber against all the sidewalls. For this, what we're doing is, this is sealed with this aluminum deal pressed up with the plastic tubing that's on the inside, crushed against the wall of the aluminum, and that nipple that sits inside. And all you're trying to do with this piece and this one is hold this one down.
What are we up to in here, Billy?
Science.
Science?
Yes, I'm going to loop the fuel feed into the return line, which is the last line I need to convert to AN. And then we're gonna prime the system and see if all this work I've done has any leaks, or if it's good to go, and test everything, like just make sure the pump's working, because I added a bunch of new lines today and I have no idea if they work or not. Come on.
Hello.
All right. Where's the fuel feed? Here we go. Right into the return. And in a way, this will let the system flow in one direction, and anything that I didn't get blown out of the lines and everything will go through this beautiful fuel filter. So before we even start the car, it'll be all cleaned out. Okay. Whew. Let's reconnect the battery and give her hell.
I feel like this is gonna be a little bit too hard of a send. No.
Now we might have to jump it because the car might freak out because it's in pieces. But if the computer doesn't hit any kind of safety mode, this should work. The door lights on?
No.
Okay.
At least not on this side.
Not on this side either. Let's see what in the car is still connected. Wait a minute. Check this. Are the door lights on now? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just the interior. Okay. I'm nervous. Oh. You gotta plug the wiring harness back in.
No,
I was like, nothing happened. Oh no.
that's too easy.
So this is not hooked up to the relay yet, but it's just the stock harness, but it should be able to turn the fuel pump on.
To prime it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, let's try again. Listen. I didn't hear nothing.
Neither did I.
All right, plan 2. Let's jump it. Okay, so I've made a very crude jumper harness just directly to the battery terminal. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the negative down, and we'll see if we hear the pump fire up.
She pumping?
That would be yes. Okay, quickly, I'm going to look and see if there are any leaks. Any leaks there?
I don't see anything.
No. Any leaks down here? No, and I can hear fuel moving around in the tank. Okay, good, good. Up here. Nothing is leaking there.
And those still need to be remade, right?
One of them, yeah. But, here, let me quickly make sure that I'm not just, because the tank's really empty, so I just want to make sure I'm not just pumping water everywhere, or air rather. Let's see. Does this have fuel coming out of it? Come on. Jeez.
You might burn out your pump at this rate.
That's why I'm trying to do this quickly. Come on. Come on. Come on. I'm expecting a splash of fuel here any second.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
That's
you unplug that?
That's the thing.
Now it's out of gas. Negative. Unplug the negative battery terminal. No. There we go. All right. Success!
That was a lot of gas.
I didn't think there was that much left in it.
Oh yeah, there was. At least it
Alright.
already smells like gas, so it's not like we're adding any fuel to the fire. Well, I mean, we're adding fuel, but not.
But no fire. No fire. All right. Great. Well, with that done and tested, that means we can get the subframe back up.
Woo!
That is going to be for another video. I don't know how long or short this one was because it was all over the place. With me trying to figure out how to make PTFE lines, trying the slip fittings, all that stuff. But I'm happy with where we're at. And it's unfortunate we couldn't use the really cool aftermarket bulkhead connector for the electronics. But the one on the S5 here is really cool. Whew, that stinks. Thank God the garage door's open. But I'm pretty confident with the way we're going to wire it up. So before we get everything finalized, I'm going to be running that directly off of a relay. So it runs directly off alternator voltage to the Walbro 450. And we'll set that up at some point in the future. But remember, check out the link in the description for the RPM Act if you haven't signed it, to protect race cars and cars like this one. I'm going to leave links in the description for the items I used to make those fittings on the hard lines and the PTFE lines.
Okay, it is strong. It just got me right in the face.
I slurred my speech a little bit because of the fumes. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please remember, be kind to each other out there. And when they ask you, tell them you want more.